You're listening to the Sailing to Success podcast show, where we share practical tips and strategies to help you be more productive, boost your profits, and grow your business. Hey there, I'm Lindsay Phillips, founder of Smooth Sailing Business Growth, and I'll be your host and captain for this 30-minute excursion. Today, we're going to be chatting with author and sales expert Chris Spurvey, who shares how he changed his sales mindset to create success. We chat about social selling, LinkedIn, and of course, he shares a ton of sales success tips. So let's dive in. Hey everyone, as mentioned, we are going to talk all about sales today so that you guys can increase your potential, your revenue, and your business growth. And that's because today we have Chris Spurvey. He's actually the author of It's Time to Sell, Cultivating the Sales Mindset. And after consciously choosing the sales profession as a means to create a better life for himself and his family, Chris realized that negative images of sales were holding him back. And we all know those negative stereotypes, right? And by shifting his mindset, Chris was actually able to transform his inner game and use his innate values and talents to become a top sales professional. He actually joined a boutique IT consulting firm in 2006. He spearheaded its growth to the point where it was actually acquired by KPMG in Canada in 2013, where he now serves as the VP of Business Development for Atlantic Canada, which is huge. I mean, he's delivered talks throughout North America on cultivating the sales mindset, talking about attracting ideal clients, building genuine relationships, social selling, LinkedIn, which we'll actually tap into a little later on in the interview today. As an entrepreneur, sales is not just for real estate or for, used car salesmen. I mean, we as entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, growing our business, sales is such a huge integral part of growing our business, Chris. So thanks for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm really excited to be when I hear that bio, I often say to myself, I've heard people in my bio before, and I got to record that thing and share it with my wife, and then she'll at least know who she's married to. I'm very grateful and excited to be on the show.
Cool. And it's true. I mean, you hear the word sales or salesman and people just cringe, right? There's that bad taste in our mouth that we've all experienced. Now, what do you consider, characteristics of a great salesperson?
Well, I mean, to me, sales has changed. And, especially with the dawn of social media and opportunities to educate yourself. So the consumer educating themselves. The reality of it is that these consumers, they're engaging salespeople later in the sales process than they ever did. I mean, back in the day before information was available, what did you do? You picked up the phone and you made a phone call. And so that's how and then you were educated about the product through the salesperson. Yeah. So, and that's kind of where, okay, so you think that through, you made multiple phone calls and then you compared what your options were. And then you as a consumer would make your decision. Well, today it's different. The consumer's engaging later in the process. And so back in the day when you had all these conversations going on, a salesperson had to be kind of, in my opinion, somewhat manipulative in order to close the deal. It was a highly competitive environment. And it's not to say it's not competitive today. It's just that, from my vantage point, the psyche of the buyer has changed dramatically. And they're putting up defensive mechanisms against that type of pushiness. So what works today in sales, in my opinion, is just being yourself and sharing your own unique abilities and your own unique qualities. And by doing that, you resonate with your potential buyer, and the buyer actually wants to buy from you versus the competition, So it's really all about just being true to yourself and being genuine. And I find sales kind of naturally flows from that if you're tapping into your own unique identity.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like, if you're trying to be quote unquote salesy or really close the deal hard, it's like people see that a mile away versus if you're authentic and yourself and you're just conversational and you actually care about the other human being. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The amount of difference it makes is crazy.
Yeah, it's no longer about throwing mud against the wall to see what sticks. It's about getting into a true, genuine relationship with somebody, identifying what their motivations are and the problems that they want to have solved, and then align your offer with that problem if it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, don't oversell it. Move on. So that's my thought on that whole subject, right?
So where does the sales mindset come in? I mean, to me, it's like the mindset of a salesperson is A, to build a relationship, and B, close the sale. Like, what more is there, right? So what change did you experience to create more success for yourself?
Well, that's an interesting question. And if I reflect on my journey, I got into sales. So I like many people who may be listening, we all have roller coasters in our lives are like a roller coaster. It's uphill, downhill, uphill, downhill, downhill, uphill. And, I guess I found myself at a point in time in my life where when I reflected back, I had effectively followed people into university, followed people into the commerce faculty, focused on accounting and with a bit of marketing because that's what my friends were doing. And I really had not made any conscious decision about where I wanted my life to actually go. So 10 years into my career, I found myself sitting behind a desk all day and not really overly fulfilled. My friends had went on in their career paths, and I was kind of still stuck doing what I kind of came to me as a result of following my friends. So I decided to make a drastic change. I wanted more for my life. I wanted more tomorrow than I had today, type of thing. And so I decided to change that direction, and I decided to pursue a career in sales. And so I was reading the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And in that book, I think it's that book, it may be one of his others, Cash Flow Quadrant or whatever. He says that if you have an entrepreneurial spirit and you want to start a business, but you have, a family to support and you may not have a huge chunk of cash in the bank, try sales as a means to acquire the skills of an entrepreneur. And so that's what I decided to do. I decided to go out and find an opportunity. So I was fortunate, as you mentioned in the opening, a boutique IT consulting company. The owners of that company took a bit of a gamble on me with no sales experience, and I can only assume they saw something in me that I never really saw in myself. And they hired me as their manager of business development. And so that was my first, outside of doing a little bit of direct selling in my kind of early 20s, that was my first foray into sales. And I went all gung-ho on it, but I struggled. And the reason I struggled was because of that preconceived notion of what I thought sales was. And so I tried to be someone I wasn't. And I read all the books about cold calling and closing sales and, those types of things. And so I tried to be someone I wasn't. And, I fell down, picked myself back up over and over and over again. And finally, I just realized, if I'm going to try to do this, I need to try to just be myself. And I was reading some of the personal development books that were out there, and some of those books, what they did for me is they really changed the image on the screen of my mind of what sales was. So sales is be of service, problem solving, finding ways to bring your true value to other people. And so I reframed sales. And so when people say, Chris, what's this mindset of sales all about? It's really just changing the image of what you think sales is on the screen of your mind. And then sales will actually feel much more natural for you, And
I'm sure it would bring the enjoyment back into it. And I guess to me, as you're saying that out loud, it's almost like your goal is different. Like instead of your goal being closing, call as many as you can, it's like your goal has shifted so that your to-do list, if you will, is building those relationships, is that being yourself, problem solving and informing people. It's a totally different direction.
Yeah, well, just to explain a distinction for you, I reflect now on a vacation that my wife and I would have taken back in, say, 2007, 2008, and I would be down on the vacation and I just wasn't present. I was thinking about numbers. I was thinking about revenue. I was thinking about, how to close more deals. And so what ended up happening is I went to a conference in Fargo, North Dakota, and I was on a whim. I got an email. It was a Bob Proctor Science of Getting Rich seminar. And at this conference, I don't know, it was just, I now believe there's only two ways to change. There's emotional impact. In other words, something big happens in your life and you're kind of forced to change. Or the other way to change is through spaced repetition, meaning you take an ideal, you form it in your mind, and through affirmation or visualization or whatever, you change by changing the image on the screen of your mind just through repetition over time. So what I did is I formulated a bit of a motto, and I came home from that seminar and I said to myself, you know what, I'm going to try to focus on the energy of progress and less on the energy of numbers. Yeah. And so what that meant for me is that, you know what, I can wake up every morning and I can say to myself, what are three key wins that I can focus on today? Whether it's finding a new contact to go to coffee with and create a genuine relationship with that individual. It could be something as simple as working out that particular day so that I feel better about myself. And so identifying three things that I can do that day that I can celebrate. And then, you know what, when I go to bed, be grateful for having achieved those and course correct if I never. So in other words, that's just focusing on the energy of progress, celebrating some small wins every day. And the more I did that, the more it kind of started to stick, and I started to feel a whole lot better about the whole thing, That's true. And that reminds me of, I think it's the 12-week year or the 12-week work year. You know that book. I can't the name of it right now, but it was like you're focusing on your actions. Yes. And just like you said, your progress versus being overwhelmed with the end goal. And it like, the more you do that, it's just a natural win in the end. Yeah, exactly. So that's the change in the mindset that I developed. Yeah. And so after our company was acquired in 2013, as you said in the opening, I guess I had a bit of a mindset around big companies and am I going to be able to make it in such a big company? And so I decided, to hedge my bets a little bit. I had dreamed about writing a book, even though I was never an author or never a writer, I should say. But I guess when I read those couple of books early in my sales career that changed the image of sales, and I'll note the titles. One of them is called The Greatest Networker in the World by John Milton Fogg, and the second one is by a gentleman, Richard Brooke, Mach 2 with Your Hair on Fire. What a great title. And those books changed the images of sales and networking and connecting on the screen of my mind. So I thought, if I ever make it in sales, which I kind of did, I guess, up to this point where our company had been acquired, I'm going to try to write a book myself that does something similar, and it's kind of my own version of all of that. And so that's where It's Time to Sell, Cultivating the Sales Mindset kind of comes in. And so it's a narrative about my journey to find fulfillment in the sales career. That's awesome. And that's, I mean, even for entrepreneurs, we, dread certain things, or we're so focused on whatever the numbers are, or the end goal. And by changing your mindset, you can just create more happiness for yourself. Yeah. Well, that's an interesting thought. So for my journey, and I believe, so what I've been on this past couple of years is a personal branding journey. Where it all began was I was writing my book, and I had envisioned serving salespeople. However, I just had the benefit at the time. I was the chairman of the board for the local technology association here in Newfoundland. And I was asked to give a talk to a group of 30 entrepreneurs. And so these entrepreneurs were basically moving from, they were in scale mode. So they had validated their product and they were looking for customers. And so in this this presentation, I decided to ask the question, what are some of the words that come to mind when you think about sales? And I was floored. Well, I wasn't floored because I should have known exactly. It was sleazy. It was slimy. It was manipulative, objection fighting, all those things. And I thought to myself, you know what? I can serve these types of people. I find sometimes some of these older fashioned salespeople, there's just no change in them. Yeah. So, but an entrepreneur who comes at it from a different angle, they're very passionate about their product or service. I can help them, So today now I serve entrepreneurs in becoming confident and comfortable in sales. That's awesome. And just the simple thing of tapping into your own passion can make a huge difference. Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, what do you consider social selling then?
Well, social selling, what that is effectively, as I alluded to, the way people are educating themselves and using the web, the social media as a way to educate themselves. What they're doing is they're out there and they're throwing off all kinds of signals, And so as an entrepreneur or a sales professional, whatever you are, and I would argue they're one and of the same to some extent, it's about looking at social media not through the eyes of yourself, but looking at it through the eyes of your ideal client. Mm-hmm. And so when you see someone say profile on LinkedIn, or you see a post on LinkedIn and you read their headline and just try to sit back and say, what's going on in that person's life today? What problems do they have? And, so maybe they're a marketing consultant. Now, I know all about consulting. I know about the trials and tribulations of consulting. It's a feast or famine type of industry. You land a client and you focus on that client. And typically consultants, they forget about business development. They focus so much on that one or two clients. And then when that one or two clients goes away, well, there's no billable hours, so their revenue dries up, right? So when I see a marketing consultant, say on LinkedIn, I'm able to look through their eyes, and just by scanning over their profiles on LinkedIn and Twitter and that sort of stuff, then you know what, I can really put myself in their shoes, and that's when I'm able to then reach out, connect, and no sales pitch, just connect and try to bring value to them through my LinkedIn. And I use LinkedIn pretty much exclusively because I just find it's an amazing platform. Just connect with them, and slowly but surely through the sharing of content and again through the eyes of that ideal client, sharing content that may resonate with that individual, it typically leads to a conversation, and it's in that conversation then that I get to truly know that person, and they get to know me, and they may become a buyer. So that to me is social selling. It's just looking for social signals and looking at social through the eyes of your buyer.
I know, and that's a good point, is like your goal is just connecting and engaging and giving them information. It always kind of semi amazes me when I still see on social media where everything is like promo, and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. And I've been there. I've made those same mistakes where you kind of spray and pray. But today I'm far more deliberate, and I use, say, LinkedIn as an example, far more strategically. So I believe that we should be focusing, if our intention is to grow our businesses, then we should be focusing on these platforms as more of a strategist with intention versus just spray and pray.
That's true. And it's like, I don't know what it is, but I think a lot of people either love or hate LinkedIn.
That's exactly true.
I don't enjoy it. I don't know. I find the interface just kind of
clunky.
Yeah. And I love Twitter. It's just my thing.
Twitter's your thing? Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, I've never really been on Twitter, so I can't even tell you if I like it or not. I'm on Twitter. I've got a few thousand followers, but I don't actually do much on it. I would say I'm not even following my own advice. I'm probably on Twitter. On Twitter, I'm just doing spray and pray, but on LinkedIn, I'm far more strategic.
Well, like you said, it's like you stick more with what works for you, right? And if LinkedIn is working for you, then that's where you're going to invest your time and your money and so forth.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I know you're sharing your advice on, how to increase your sales or increase your, potential reach and your prospects and your relationships. What do you attribute your success on LinkedIn?
God, that's a really, really good question. I would say so if I look at my journey, back in 2007, I joined LinkedIn on November the 22nd, 2006. And I saw it as just...
You remember that?
Yeah, well, I did some research. I did some research actually and found the date that I joined. And I joined, when I look back at that, it was just, it's when I was working in marketing and was looking for a sales job. So I saw it as a place to put my resume, And so I just let let that thing sit there and never really engaged much in the platform up until, around 2008, I began to see it as a great multiplier effect. And so what I needed at the time was to network with other IT consultants. And so I got on there and I would search out people's profiles and get to know them through their profiles, and then reach out to people and then jump on a phone call. So from there, I guess when I decided to write my book, I came to the realization, outside of mom and dad, who else is going to buy the thing? So that's when I realized I need a platform. And so I began to publish content on LinkedIn through their publishing platform. And so the more I did that, the more I realized, I guess, that it's all about contributing to other people. So I go on there for 15 or 20 minutes a day, and I search out articles or posts of my connections, and I genuinely comment and like them if I like them and want to comment on them. And so that level, by me taking that amount of time and engaging in their content, the more that I do that, the more I notice they come back to me and support me and engage in my content. So it kind of goes to Gary Vaynerchuk's approach of jab, 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 right hook. It's like give, 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 and then maybe throw a few asks in every now and then. So it's just all about stimulating engagement.
Do you find more success with they keep changing the name of it, but the articles that are on the quote unquote pulse versus just your regular status updates?
Right now it seems like the posts, not the post, the article, the posts versus the pulse per articles. The posts are actually creating more momentum.
Oh, really?
And and I've published, I think it's 123 articles I've published on LinkedIn, but I haven't actually done one since May, I think. And I just found they must have done something with their algorithm so now I just do a few posts. And, it's interesting. My approach on LinkedIn is, I would argue it's a little bit unique because they have video now. They allow you to upload photos. I believe that we should be sharing the multi-dimensional sides of our personality. So yesterday I posted on LinkedIn the pictures of my children and my wife going back to school. And I got a huge engagement on that, 50 or 60 likes and a pile of comments. And every Saturday I post, I think it's called the Saturday Morning Gem. And basically what I do is I find a little gem here in my home province of Newfoundland, and I take a picture of it, or two or three, and I share it on LinkedIn. So I'm sharing the multidimensional side of my personality. And now it's after catching on. And so people are replying to my post and saying, here's my backyard, And so no one's ever said to me, Chris, that's personal. LinkedIn's only for professional purposes. So I'm all about debunking that myth. I'm going to post a video tomorrow, my first real live video on LinkedIn, and I plan on walking through my bookshelf in the video. Because by walking through my bookshelf, again, people will see what my passions are. They'll see I'm passionate about personal development. I'm passionate about sales. I'm passionate about marketing. And so they'll get to see and know me and like me and trust me even a bit more by doing something like that.
I love that. And it's funny, again, by you kind of changing your mindset about LinkedIn, because I post some personal stuff on Facebook, but I don't put any personal stuff on Twitter or LinkedIn. Don't know why. I guess it's just sort of my mindset. And I know the value and the importance of it, because people want to know you as a human being and as a person. And I love seeing other people's posts that are like that. I actually saw the post of you and your family and your boys, and I think I liked it. But
yeah, that's right.
And you want to see the person as a human being, not just as a company.
Exactly.
So I'm going to have to follow your advice there and then start doing that in LinkedIn and see what happens.
Yeah, try it. What's the lose?
I know, right?
And I guess then maybe I'll throw a little tip in, from there, I believe in creating a very even flow between your LinkedIn profile and the things you do on LinkedIn, whether it's articles or posts, creating a nice flow between that and your website. And so if you go to my website, you'll see the tagline very closely mimics the tagline for my profile on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
So people see congruency then between my profile and my website. And then what I have is I have on my website a lead magnet, my personalized sales plan. And so when people go from LinkedIn over to my website, they can download that lead magnet, and thus they get the value, but they become a part of my prospect list at that point in time. And so I highly encourage anyone listening who wants to generate leads and start closing more business, put a lead magnet on your website, and then maybe an additional thing, make sure you have a Facebook pixel on your website, because then you can retarget people on Facebook that are moving from LinkedIn over to your website.
Exactly. Wow, you packed a lot of good tips in there in a short amount of time. That's awesome. Okay, what is your experience with LinkedIn groups?
Not very good. It's interesting because I'm currently running a program called Linked Success, and as a part of being a part of that program, we have a Facebook group. So LinkedIn groups, they haven't figured that out at this point in time. From what I gather, now I gotta believe they're gonna make some massive improvements to it. They have to, because I mean, groups is where community takes place, and Facebook got it down, right? So I use Facebook pretty well exclusively for their groups and my business page, and so that's my thought on that. I don't think LinkedIn has got that figured out at this point.
Yeah, I mean, you don't hear much about it, and I don't know how user-friendly it is on apps and such like that, but one of my clients has a LinkedIn group, and he's it's done really well for him.
Is that right?
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah, I'd love to dissect that and learn a bit more about it. I know there is a lady in Ontario, Sue Feet. She owns the group Step Into the Spotlight, and she has created an amazing personal brand through a LinkedIn group. So, again, maybe it's my mindset. I hear from people that LinkedIn groups suck, so I just assume that they do, right?
I know, that's funny. Yeah, and I mean, he's in a specific niche, so I mean, who knows? I think too, it's like, where are your people? Where are they hanging out, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you're going to go where your prospects are hanging out and capitalize on it for sure.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned that course. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so I recently launched this course called Linked Success. If you want to learn more about it, just go to chrisspurvey.com/LinkedIn. And effectively, if you enroll in the free webinar, I'm going to give you a pile of value in that free webinar. But off the back end of the webinar, I promote this course. And basically, it's about how to scale your following on LinkedIn. It's called 4 Essential LinkedIn Strategies that will rapidly grow your prospect list and client base. So in this 7-module e-course and community, effectively it moves people from having a profile that maybe doesn't necessarily resemble their ideal client and is attractive to their ideal client, moving from there into connections, into adding people to your prospect list or your email list on your website. So also a little bit about how to actually convert people on your website. And then moving from there, in my opinion, the gold in all of this is transitioning from virtual connections into actual true relationships, and how to structure a good conversation around, understanding people's motivations, and then maybe throwing out your offer and hopefully getting a new customer. So that's kind of the gist of the course.
That's awesome. And we'll put the links on our show notes as well. So if there's any other links, just shoot them to me and we'll add those in. So the webinar, I know you were kind of working on that yesterday. So it's open to the public?
Well, it is going to be by the time this goes live.
Yes.
So what we did yesterday is we ran 3 back-to-back webinars. We recorded the 3 of them, and now we're going to patch together the best of the 3 and make it into an evergreen webinar.
Oh, awesome.
So when you go to that site, that link that I gave you, when this show airs, the evergreen webinar will be there.
Perfect. And I love that you're sharing your expertise and your, not only with the sales, but the social end of things, because it's relevant now, right? And And I think a lot of people don't necessarily get LinkedIn. So any bit of help we can get.
Yeah. I'm telling you, there's gold in LinkedIn. And, I think it's an untapped market for many entrepreneurs. They gravitate, the entrepreneur, they gravitate to Facebook. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with Facebook.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is that LinkedIn is, you have the mindset is at the foundation is professional, and people are there to advance themselves. But when you really think about it through a different lens, they're there with problems that they have. And so a marketing consultant might be on LinkedIn to promote their marketing services, their marketing consulting services. But you know what? Maybe they're overweight and they want to get back into shape. And so they're on LinkedIn, and it's just a matter of interrupting their pattern on LinkedIn and in terms of sharing some value through an article or post, and then becoming a connection with them. And so all of a sudden that marketing consultant on LinkedIn could become your customer if you're a nutritionist or whatever, right?
That's so true. And I never really thought about it that way. Because we all have our normal lives, and we all have our, problems that we want to solve, or even just growing our business, and
absolutely,
need help with certain areas of expertise that we're not experts in. So I know it's like, it's getting over those stupid little mindset hiccups. It's like, you think, okay, it's just corporate, it's just blue collar, and even with sales, it's like our mindset sometimes holds us back in so many ways.
It does, yeah. It's called paradigms, is the word that I learned from Bob Proctor. It's like the box that everyone, and we all have it. I have a box around me. It's just that my box now is a little bit different than it was maybe a year or two ago. A year or two ago, I never would have dreamed I was I was able to sell 70,000+ copies of my book and launch a 6-figure course and blah 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 blah. I never would have dreamed I was doing that back a couple of years ago, but here I am now, and I have a new box around me, and that box is, God, Chris, are you able to repeat this? Are you able to maintain the momentum? Those types of things. So it's all about self-doubt, and we all have it at different levels, right?
Absolutely. And as we grow, there's just different new problems or thoughts that come up.
Yeah, exactly.
But the fun part of it is the learning new things and the growing and the stretching of your mind and your thoughts. And I couldn't imagine any other journey, that's for sure.
You got it. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, let us know how we can get a hold of your book, and also if you can give us that link again for your course.
Yeah, well, my home is chrisspurvey.com. That's CHRISSPURVEY.com. I recommend you go there. As a matter of fact, just go there. I'm going to have a link on that main page to my webinar. But if you want to go direct, it's just take chrisspurvey.com and add LinkedIn after the slash. And I mean, one of the things I'm very consistent with is every Sunday morning I send out an e-newsletter, and this e-newsletter is not a typical e-newsletter. It's just a story or two about me in the past week, how I fell down and picked myself back up, and I include a video, which is typically a tip or two around personal branding or selling. And so, you can subscribe to that on my website and get to know me through that.
Nice. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time. And I know I've been on your show, so it was so great to have you on mine, and sharing your sales expertise and your LinkedIn successes and tips. Yeah,
you're welcome. It was great.
Perfect. So that is it for this episode of Sailing to Success podcast, folks. You, of course, can get my blogs and videos at either lindsayphillips.com. And, of course, if you are looking to grow your business and need some help to attract and acquire customers faster, definitely check out smoothbusinessgrowth.com. So have a profitable and productive week, and may the winds always be at your back.